As Israel and mediating countries have been working to formulate a new framework for a potential hostage ceasefire deal in Gaza, Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu convened a high-level security meeting to address the ongoing efforts to free the 101 hostages still held by Hamas in Gaza, as families of hostages and international leaders intensify calls for action. The meeting followed statements by President Isaac Herzog, who assured hostage families that negotiations are actively happening behind the scenes. Prime Minister Netanyahu held the emergency security discussion overnight devoted to the dramatic developments in Syria and to the issue of the hostages, following statements that now, after the ceasefire in the north, a deal for the hostages can finally be reached. Egypt continues to lead mediation efforts, hosting a Hamas delegation in Cairo for renewed talks. U.S. National Security Advisor Jake Sullivan confirmed that active conversations are underway with key players, including Turkey, Qatar, and Egypt. However, Sullivan cautioned that while progress had been made, we're not there yet. Meanwhile, in New York, Adi Alexander, the father of hostage Idan Alexander, an American-Israeli citizen featured in a Hamas video which was released this past weekend, made a heartfelt plea.
President Biden, President Trump, Prime Minister Netanyahu, I call on all of you to act. This is not a moment for politics or hesitations. This is a moment of courage, collaboration, and decisive actions.
Idan Alexander was among 251 hostages abducted during the October 7th Hamas massacre. Many, including Alexander, are believed to be in deteriorating physical and medical condition. Reports suggest some hostages have lost up to half their body weight, with others possibly having died in captivity.
Idan's words into the video haunt me. Every day here feels like an eternity. No father should hear his child plead for his life like that. He believes in the strength of the United States, so do I.
Families of hostages continue to rally, urging leaders to seize this moment, especially following the recent ceasefire with Lebanon. Israeli President Herzog echoed their sentiments, saying that the conditions are now ripe for a deal. And among some optimism in hostage talks, the IDF have confirmed that Captain Omer Nutra, a 21-year-old tank commander and dual U.S.-Israeli citizen, was killed during the October 7th Hamas attacks, and his body remains captive by Hamas in Gaza. Nutra was originally from Long Island and enlisted in the IDF as a lone soldier. His parents, Orna and Ronen Nutra, who believed he may have still been alive in captivity for over a year now, had just spoken at a New York rally this past weekend, urging U.S. leaders to collaborate on securing the release of all hostages. There have been a series of Hezbollah ceasefire violations confronted by the IDF in South Lebanon, but no cross-border incoming shelling has been reported. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
Israeli jets launched an airstrike over the Lebanese border village of Yaroun, and troops shelled other border towns and villages where armed men appeared. In the most serious incident since the start of the ceasefire last week, IDF paratroopers confronted and killed a group of Hezbollah gunmen. They were seen operating close to a church in a South Lebanese town. The troops opened fire, killing them. The army said the group was actively building Hezbollah defenses in a restricted area. The troops entered the area and located a tunnel shaft that was used to store weapons. Since the start of the ceasefire, the army remains in South Lebanon and is actively working to prevent the return of Hezbollah gunmen into South Lebanese villages. The army is also actively working to prevent civilians from entering designated areas. The army is continuing efforts to locate Hezbollah weapons and any remaining assets. While Israel insists it's only enforcing the ceasefire by striking Hezbollah forces violating its terms, France is reportedly charging that Israel has repeatedly been in violation of the week-old truce. The IDF has until the end of January to withdraw. When it comes time to evaluate the next steps in Lebanon, the Trump administration will have just taken office in the U.S.
As Air Force jets patrolled the skies over Lebanon, they detected and intercepted an Iranian plane filled with weapons and bound for Syrian government forces as rebels advance in the civil war. Prime Minister Netanyahu said Israel is closely monitoring developments. More from ILTV's Devo Klein.
The Air Force intercepted an Iranian plane suspected of carrying Hezbollah weapons and bound for Syria. The Iranian plane was approached by several fighter jets that circled nearly and ordered the plane to turn back. The pilot complied and returned toward Iran. The incident took place over Lebanese airspace, where the ceasefire arrangement allows full Israeli air control. The move comes amid the civil war in Syria, with the weapons earmarked to the armed forces of Syrian President Assad and not for Hezbollah for use against Israel. After Syrian rebels overran Aleppo, Russia has been stepping up airstrikes against them in support of the Assad regime. Iran is also showing concern. Its foreign minister Abbas Araghchi met with Syrian President al-Assad, who vowed to crush the insurgents. Israel is closely watching developments in Syria while focused on the maintenance of the ceasefire in Lebanon.
אנחנו עוקבים כל הזמן אחרי מה שקורה בסוריה. אנחנו נחושים גם להגן על האינטרסים החיוניים של מדינת ישראל וגם לשמר את ההישגים של המלחמה.
And now for American politics. U.S. President-elect Donald Trump has tapped individuals with close family ties for key roles in his latest round of nominations. More on this from ILTV's executive editor, Mayan Hoffman.
Former U.S. President Donald Trump announced key nominations over the weekend, appointing the fathers-in-law of two of his daughters to prominent roles. Charles Kushner, Ivanka Trump's father-in-law, was named U.S. ambassador to France, while Massad Boulos, Tiffany Trump's Lebanese-American father-in-law, was tapped as senior advisor on Arab and Middle Eastern affairs on Sunday. Trump, who made the announcements on Truth Social, called Boulos a deal-maker and said he is an unwavering supporter of peace in the Middle East. Boulos, a Greek Orthodox Lebanese American with deep political ties in Lebanon, campaigned for Trump to rally Lebanese and Arab American support despite U.S. backing for Israel's actions against Hezbollah. His family has a legacy in Lebanese politics, with his father and grandfather active in the political sphere, and his father-in-law a key backer of the Hezbollah-aligned Free Patriotic Movement. Boulos joins what Israelis expect to be a winning Middle Eastern team that include real estate developer Steve Witkoff, now special envoy to the region, and evangelical leader Mike Huckabee, also a staunch supporter of Israel. Charles Kushner, father of Jared Kushner, is a 70-year-old real estate developer and philanthropist who also has a controversial past. Convicted in 2004 on charges of tax evasion, lying to the Federal Election Commission, and witness retaliation, Kushner was pardoned by Trump at the end of his first term. Jared Kushner is not expected to hold an official role, but will instead serve as a behind-the-scenes advisor. On Saturday, Trump also nominated Kash Patel, a former Defense Department chief of staff, as the next FBI director. While his role isn't directly linked to Israel, Patel has frequently praised Israel's intelligence capabilities and called on the U.S. to stand side by side with its number one ally. Finally, First Lady Sarah Netanyahu met with Trump at the Trump International Golf Course in West Palm Beach, Florida. According to a post she shared on Instagram, Netanyahu stressed the urgent need to free Israeli hostages from the grips of Hamas during their talk.
And joining me now is David Makowski, Senior Fellow at the Washington Institute of Near East Policy. David, thank you for joining us.
Delighted to be with you.
So I just reported that Adi Alexander, the father of an American-Israeli hostage, Idan, called on both Biden and Trump to work together to advance a hostage deal. How likely is it that the outgoing and incoming administrations will successfully collaborate on this issue? What are you hearing behind the scenes?
Look, I think the national security teams are working actually nicely together. It's one of the underreported stories. And I think that's important. I think they actually work together on something that dealing with the West Bank. There was a whole issue on the banking crisis, on the Palestinian issue, and the teams are working well. So, and I think for the Biden people, this is critical to wrap up whatever is possible before they leave office. The president sees this as a moral obligation, and the incoming president has said, and we saw these quotes of Lindsey Graham, someone who's close to the president-elect Trump, that want this issue resolved before he takes office. So I think. There's no guarantees here, and the devil's always, sadly, tragically, in the details. But I do think on this case where there's clear common ground, it's not a partisan issue in any way. I do think it won't fall because the two sides are not working together. Let's put it that way.
Could the transition between administrations impact the progress of negotiations? Can the two ideally advance a deal before the switchover?
look, you've got all these things lining up. You've got a Lebanon ceasefire, which decouples the two arenas. So Hamas is more alone than it was in the past. You've got Iran now totally distracted with other things. And Hamas has to know that also. I mean, they're not a Hamas, an Iranian proxy like Hezbollah is, but Iran has been dealt some serious blows. And now the presidential election has been decided, so you kind of know going in. Everyone is hoping for the case of like the American hostages, which were released 20 minutes into the new administration of Ronald Reagan. I'm not saying that history here is going to repeat itself, because Hamas is different than a state. Of course, this is a terror organization. But there are some big things that have come together. But look, there's no guarantees. But I do think for this administration, they care deeply about this. Brett McGurk has been out in Saudi Arabia working this issue and other places. He's the point person of the administration. This is on their priority list. That I know for sure.
So moving on to the situation in the north, given the U.S.'s role in facilitating the ceasefire between Israel and Lebanon, and considering how previous ceasefires between Israel and Hezbollah have been very fragile, to say the least, what lessons do you think that Washington has learned to ensure that this truce is more durable?
Look, this one is a harder one, I think, because it's clear, I think the administration wants to focus on, big violations like rocket launchers, tunnels, manufacturing of weapons plants, and things like that. And they're not going to be looking for pistols or anything. But you're in this very murky 60-day period where the IDF could do more of what it wants until this happens, until the transition is complete. By the time that's finished, then the new administration comes in, and then it takes them time to get their personnel into place. So I think the assumption here is that with all the destruction on the South Lebanese villages, and I also talked to Israelis over the weekend who are very involved in this issue, that with all the destruction of the villages, Israel's big problem is not going to be the first 60 days. But I do think it's important that, if there's a mechanism, this enforcement mechanism, whether it involves one of the heads of CENTCOM, the U.S. Central Military Command, is a real mechanism. And I just don't know how long it's going to take. But I do think most people think that things will be quiet for a while, but having quiet is not enough, because Israel learned the lesson last time that, if you just don't want to rock, when you have quiet, you don't want to rock the boat, you could become addicted to calm. So Israel's going to be very vigilant, looking for violations wherever it can, I think. And how the mechanism is going to work in these first 2 months, I don't know. People are just assuming that Hezbollah is going to might take years until they regroup. But what Israel learned from the last time is don't wait. Just because there's calm, that doesn't mean there's not activity. They could be acquiring weapons even if they're not using them. So the quiet could be a little bit misleading in that regard.
David Makowski, thank you very much.
Delighted to be with you.
The IDF carried out a rare drone strike in Samaria after locating a terror cell trying to bring in heavy weapons from Iran. The anti-terror operation comes amid a spike in terror attacks in Judea and Samaria. ILTV's Steve Leibowitz reports.
An Israeli drone strike targeted a group of terrorists near Jenin. The anti-terror op followed the announcement that the IDF had thwarted an Iranian attempt to smuggle heavy weaponry into the northern Samaria terrorist hotbed. Palestinian sources said that 4 people were killed in the strike in the village of Kafar Sir. The IDF also mapped out the home of a terrorist who carried out a deadly shooting attack in the Gitai Avisar junction. The home of the gunman killed during the attack is slated for demolition in accordance with policy. Terrorist Vel Lachluch, a 31-year-old resident of Kabatia, carried out the shooting attack at the Mechula junction on August 11, 2024, in which Jonathan Deutsch was murdered and another Israeli citizen wounded. This morning, footage was released from the bus shooting last week near Ariel. The police announced that an Arab resident of East Jerusalem was arrested on suspicion of aiding the terrorist who carried out the Friday terrorist shooting attack on a bus near Ariel in Samaria. 9 people were wounded in the attack, including 4 soldiers. The bus driver is hospitalized in critical condition. The IDF arrived quickly on the scene, neutralizing the shooter. The search was conducted before it was determined that there was only one gunman involved.
And now let's look at a life-saving organization, United Hatzalah, who have just reached an impressive milestone. The organization has grown to 8,000 volunteers after seeing a massive 1,000 new volunteers in the last year alone. This growth allows United Hatzalah to reach even the most remote locations in Israel. And ILTV's very own Devo Klein, who herself is a United Hatzalah volunteer, has the full report.
Israel's largest volunteer emergency medical service, United Hatzalah, has reached a remarkable milestone, surging to 8,000 volunteers nationwide. This growth reflects the dedication and unity of Israeli society. With 1,000 new members joining this year, United Hatzalah's life-saving network has expanded dramatically. Alongside this growth, 200 new ambucycles and dozens of ambulances have been added, enhancing their emergency response capabilities. The organization's volunteers come from all walks of life: Jews, Muslims, Christians, secular and religious, working side by side to save lives. Every day, they handle over 2,200 emergency calls across the country. Since its founding in 2006, United Hatzalah has treated over 7 million people. This extraordinary service operates 24/7, free of charge, ensuring no one in need is left without help. From bustling cities to remote towns, their reach is unmatched. Each volunteer undergoes rigorous training, prepared to risk their lives for the greater good. President and founder Eli Beer stated, quote, "Our volunteers represent the very best of Israeli society. It's inspiring to see so many people from every sector come together to selflessly save lives." United Hatzalah embodies the spirit of courage, compassion, and unity, with every call answered and every life saved, showing what true dedication means. In the words of Eli Beer, the challenges of the past year have only strengthened our resolve. United Hatzalah is determined to grow, ensuring no life is left without hope.
The residents of the picturesque northern seaside city of Nahariya were not evacuated at the start of the war last October, but they had about 2 months of almost daily targeting leading up to the ceasefire. Now, the people are trying to get things back to normal. More from ILTV's Steve Leibowitz.
Located less than 10 kilometers from the border with Lebanon, Nahariya had come under repeated attacks from Hezbollah rockets and UAVs, especially in recent months. Now, quiet has returned to the city. Nahariya is one of the favorite tourist attractions of the Israeli public, located on the sea, and the picturesque boardwalk and unique water canal bring many visitors to the city, especially on the weekends and holidays. Not so in recent months, and to a lesser extent over the past year.
It was quite difficult during the past month, but we managed to be open most of the time during the bombing and all the alerts. We ran to the shelters, keep all the people, the customers and the employees safe as possible.
Children are now back in school and businesses have reopened.
But now, hopefully, everything is going back to normal, and we're here to make a change, and from here just to grow up and to give all the customers exactly what they want, to be happy and good things you can see all around us, what we have here. All the delicacies and the ice creams and all the candies.
With its towering eucalyptus trees, shopping boulevards, hotels and restaurants, all located along some of the most extensive and developed beaches, there is no doubt that Nahariya will be back and will be even better.
Now let's take a look at Psagot Winery, a unique winery that has had to adapt to the reality of war. Psagot not only maintained generations of superb winemaking, but also found a way to give back to the community in unique ways. Let's hear how they did it.
On the morning of October 7th, Psagot Winery, like the rest of Israel, came to a standstill. Life as we knew it ground to a halt, and we began the profound task of adapting to a reality intertwined with war and pain.
Everything stopped, all the parties, all the winemaking, everything stopped, and everybody went to take care of the state of Israel. Like all of Am Yisrael, it's been a very difficult time trying to figure out not just how to deal with the new reality, but how to help, how to get to work to try to help the state of Israel and the people of Israel every day since October 7th.
I believe that in such a difficult time, we cannot do the same thing we used to do before. Each one of us need to find the way how we remember what happened to us and what we are going to do that it will never happen again, and how to support our people that hurt so hard.
In the face of war's turmoil, Psagot Winery responded with heartfelt determination, venturing into new territories by opening a patisserie and a bridal dress shop. Their mission extended far beyond winemaking. It was about nurturing hope and solidarity. To honor and uplift communities devastated on October 7th, they introduced a special wine collection, channeling proceeds toward the rebuilding of these shattered neighborhoods.
Many people just need us, and it's very sad, it's very hard. We really try to give whatever we can. So this is the first mission, definitely to be there for the people, whoever needs help. We just help. We are not just a winery, it's a place for people to come celebrate, even if they had something bad in their family or they lost someone, we are here to support. We made this series as this is very exciting. October 7th, all the money is going to support the settlements for the Otef, for the Gaza area, that we are in a very good connections now, after everything that happened. We called the names of the places that were severely hurted, and we hope that we will come back and drink the wine there. We really want to drink it there with all the families in their homes. And this wine is a prayer. It is a prayer for hope.
The conflict between Israel and Hamas has inflicted widespread pain, destruction, and grief. Yet amid this turmoil, it has also fostered a profound sense of unity and hope. Time and again, we witness Israeli resilience, exemplified by Psagot Winery. As Psagot has demonstrated, each of us can contribute to supporting Israel. Together, we will strive towards victory.
We all need to be much more busy with giving and donation and putting our efforts in helping people. We all need to support and help each other. It's like there's no privilege, to enjoy now. It's not the time. We have that in a year or two, but now it's time. Everybody needs to be in the effort and to help a lot.
Now let's take a look at the weather forecast. Mostly clear skies are expected tonight around the country, and temperatures should reach lows of around 10 degrees Celsius or 50 degrees Fahrenheit. Then tomorrow, mostly sunny skies are expected alongside cold temperatures set to reach highs of only 20 degrees Celsius or 69 degrees Fahrenheit. That's a wrap for today's news. For the latest updates from Israel on all your devices, be sure to follow our ILTV channel, subscribe to our newsletter, and explore our website, iltv.tv. Stay informed with the latest news straight from the heart of Israel. I'm Sivan Raviv. Be well, be safe, and thank you so much for watching.